Okay, are you ready for this? We're going deep on bugs this time.
Bugs.
Yep, you heard that right. Bugs, specifically bugs as food. Well, not our food,
Right.
chicken food. Remember that research paper you sent me? The one about using black soldier flies in poultry feed?
Oh, yeah, that was a dense one.
It was. So think of this as your bug to English translation. We're extracting all the juicy bits.
Sounds good.
So you're all about sustainable food systems, and this paper dives into how these black soldier flies, or BSF, could be the
Yeah.
key to more eco-friendly chicken farming.
Yeah, it might seem a little out there at first. But when
Bugs.
you think about the problems with traditional protein sources for animal feed,
Like soybeans and fish meal.
exactly, deforestation, overfishing, not sustainable.
Not at all. So where do the bugs come in?
Well, the black soldier fly larvae, they're basically little protein powerhouses.
Okay.
And get this, they can be raised on waste products. So we're talking about turning trash into chicken feed.
Wait, so we're feeding chickens?
Mhm.
Garbage.
Not exactly garbage, more like byproducts, things we'd normally throw away.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but back up a sec. What exactly is a black soldier fly? Are we talking like those pesky house flies that are always buzzing around my fruit bowl?
No, not those guys. They're a different type of fly altogether.
Okay.
And it's their larva, their grub stage.
Like little worms.
Yeah, kind of. But these little worms are packed with protein and nutrients.
Hmm.
And they're super adaptable, can thrive in all kinds of environments.
Okay, starting to see the potential here. But let's get down to brass tacks. Does using these BSF in feed actually affect the chickens? Do they grow bigger, lay more eggs, taste different?
Those are the million-dollar questions, right? And the research is, well, it's fascinating. Let's start with the chickens raised for meat, the broilers.
Okay.
Some studies show really promising results. The BSF can actually replace traditional protein sources in the feed, and the chickens still grow well.
So they're getting all the protein they need from bugs instead of soybeans or fish meal.
Exactly. And they even have good feed conversion ratios.
Hold up. Feed conversion ratios. You're going to have to break that down for me.
It's basically a measure of how efficiently the chicken turns the feed into meat.
Oh, yeah.
So a lower ratio means they're using the feed more effectively, less waste.
So lower is better.
Exactly. Better for the farmers, better for the environment.
Got it. So BSF, the magic solution. Just swap it in and boom, sustainable chicken farming.
It would be nice if it were that easy.
Right.
Some studies, they show no change in growth at all, or even negative impacts,
Really?
especially when they include BSF at high levels.
Hmm.
And then for the laying hens, the ones that produce eggs, it gets even more complicated.
How so?
Well, some good results there, but also some challenges, like egg production can be affected, the size of the eggs, even the thickness of the shells.
Hmm.
And it all depends on how much BSF they're getting and what type.
So it's not a simple one-to-one swap?
Nope. It's like fine-tuning a recipe, got to find the right balance of ingredients.
Okay, so BSF, it's more than just bug protein. It's this whole complex ingredient with all these variables.
You got it.
But before we get into all that, let's talk about what everyone's probably wondering. Does it affect the chicken itself? The meat?
You mean like, does it make the chicken taste weird?
Yeah, if I'm eating chicken raised on bugs, I want to know if I'm going to be able to tell.
I get it. And you might be surprised by this, but some studies show that BSF can actually lead to improvements in the meat,
Improvements.
like better breast meat yield, the meat is more tender, even healthier fat profiles.
So tastier, healthier chicken thanks to bugs.
Potentially, but it's not always consistent. And here's the kicker. Most taste tests, people can't tell the difference.
Seriously. So you could be eating bug-fed chicken right now and not even know it.
Exactly. It doesn't affect the taste.
That's good to know. Okay, so we've covered growth, eggs, taste. What else did this research dive into?
One of the most fascinating areas is the impact on gut health.
Ah, the gut microbiome. Everyone's talking about gut health these days. What about chickens?
Yeah, so picture the intestines like a shag carpet.
Okay.
And the longer the shag, the more surface area there is for absorbing nutrients.
So longer shag equals healthier chickens.
You got it. And some studies, they show that lower levels of BSF, under 15%,
Uh-huh.
they seem to promote that longer shag, leading to better nutrient absorption.
But you said lower levels, so I'm guessing there's a but coming.
Huh. You know me too well.
Spill it.
Higher levels of BSF can actually have the opposite effect, potentially harming gut health.
So too much of a good thing.
Right. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
Goldilocks and the three bears of chicken feed.
Exactly. Not too much, not too little.
Did you,
Yeah.
All right. Does it also affect the types of bacteria in the gut? The what is it, the microbiome?
It does. That's where the research gets really, really complex. Sometimes BSF seems to boost the good bacteria.
Okay.
Sometimes it reduces the overall diversity, and sometimes it even increases the harmful bacteria.
So it's not a simple equation.
Not at all. It all depends on the specific type of BSF product and how much is added to the feed.
Okay, so the gut is a complicated place. But it's fascinating to see how this BSF can have such a big impact. What else did this research uncover?
Back for more bug talk.
You know it. These black soldier flies are way more interesting than I ever imagined.
I told you. And we're just scratching the surface. Remember how we were talking about finding that sweet spot with how much BSF to use in the feed?
Yeah, the Goldilocks zone.
Well, this research paper really gets into the nitty-gritty of how different types of BSF products affect things.
So it's not just bugs good or bugs bad. It's way more nuanced.
Exactly. Like, one study found that chickens fed a combo of BSF larvae oil and meal did better than those fed just one or the other.
Did better in what way? Growth. Egg production.
This was looking at feed conversion ratios, how efficiently they turn feed into meat.
Oh, right. Lower is better. So a mix of oil and meal is the secret sauce for super efficient chickens.
Could be. But we got to look at the flip side, too. What about those studies that showed BSF actually made things worse?
Yeah, those are kind of concerning.
Right, so one study this year found that when BSF oil completely replaced soybean oil in the feed, the chickens didn't gain as much weight.
So too much oil is a no-go.
Seems like it. The researchers think all that oil might have messed with the chicken's gut structure.
The shag carpet we were picturing.
Yep, potentially messed with nutrient absorption. It's amazing how these seemingly small tweaks to the feed can have such big knock-on effects.
Totally. And all this talk has been about broilers, the chickens we eat. What about laying hens, the egg layers?
There's some promising stuff there too, especially when using what's called defatted BSF meal.
Defatted. So they've taken the oil out. Makes sense if too much oil causes problems.
Right on. And check this out. One study replaced all the soybean meal with defatted BSF meal, and the hens actually had lower feed conversion ratios.
So more efficient egg laying, thanks to bugs. But knowing this research, I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and roses?
You're learning. There are always trade-offs. Like one study found that the egg yolks were a bit paler when the hens ate BSF.
Huh. I wonder if people would even notice that or if they'd care. I mean, if it makes the eggs more sustainable, maybe slightly paler yolks are an acceptable compromise.
It's a good question. Gets to the heart of consumer perception, right? Even if the science is solid, got to consider what people are actually willing to buy.
For sure. Okay, what about the studies that showed BSF having a negative impact on the hens?
Well, a couple things stood out. One found that when soybean meal was completely replaced with BSF meal for a long time, like 21 weeks,
Okay.
the hens actually lost weight.
So the length of time matters too. It's not just the ingredients themselves, but how long they're eating them.
Makes a big difference. And another study, when they completely swapped out soybean meal, the hens laid fewer eggs.
Oh.
And not just fewer, they were smaller eggs, and even some weirdly shaped ones.
Definitely sounds like we've left the sweet spot at that point.
For sure. Finding that balance is crucial. Now, remember the gut microbiome we were talking about before? The shag carpet analogy?
Still picturing it. BSF is like an interior designer for chicken guts.
That's one way to put it. But seriously, the research on this is really deep. Turns out, adding BSF meal often leads to actual improvements in the intestines themselves.
So even shaggier shag carpets.
Huh, pretty much. At lower levels, under that 15% mark, BSF seems to make those villi, the actual name for the shag, longer and healthier.
Healthier guts thanks to bug protein. But again, you said lower levels. I sense a however coming.
You know me too well. At higher levels, it can backfire. Shorter villi, less nutrient absorption.
And potentially problems for the chickens.
Yep, just like we've seen with growth in eggs. Balance is everything.
This is a theme for sure. What about the types of bacteria in the gut? Does BSF mess with that whole ecosystem?
Oh, absolutely. It can shake things up big time. One study found that 5% BSF, it boosted the good bacteria,
right.
but 15% actually reduced the diversity of the microbiome.
Wow, so even with the good bacteria, too much can be a bad thing.
Exactly. It's about finding that Goldilocks zone again. Not too much, not too little, just the right amount to nudge things in the right direction.
So much to consider. But even if we nail that perfect balance, what does it actually mean for the chicken's health? Like their overall well-being?
Well, the research suggests some pretty cool benefits. One study found that chickens fed BSF pupae.
Pupae, that's the stage before they become flies, right?
Yep, those guys. They had significantly less salmonella in their gut.
Salmonella, that's a big deal. Food poisoning and all that. So BSF could help prevent those outbreaks you hear about.
It's a real possibility. And another study found that 50% BSF meal.
Wow, that's a lot of bugs.
It is. It reduced several kinds of bad bacteria, E. coli, Clostridium, the works.
Those are some serious bacterial villains. Like BSF is giving the chickens an internal defense force.
Pretty much. But I gotta stay nuanced here. Even this paper admits that sometimes high levels of BSS can actually make things worse for certain types of bacteria.
So it's a powerful tool, but one that needs to be wielded carefully. Too much of a good thing can backfire.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about understanding all the complexities and finding that sweet spot where BSF really shines.
This whole deep dive is making me think about food in a whole new way. It's not just about what's on my plate, it's about the whole system behind it.
I love that. And speaking of the bigger picture, let's talk about something that's always a concern when introducing new things to animals. Death rates.
Oh yeah, we want to make sure these BSF diets aren't going to harm the chickens in the long run.
Absolutely. And here's the good news. Several studies reported 0 deaths in hens eating BSF meal.
0. That's amazing. So it's not just sustainable, it seems pretty safe too.
At least based on what we know so far. And it's not just hens either. Studies on broilers, even ducks, also showed no increase in death rates when BSF was added to their feed.
Okay, safe is definitely going on the list of potential BSF benefits. This is starting to look like a win-win all around.
It really is. Now, ready to go a little deeper, we've talked about the chickens as a whole, but what about their internal workings? Their blood, their organs?
Oh wow, yeah. I'm picturing a microscopic view inside the chicken. What did they find?
Well, several studies found that feeding BSF meal to laying hens,
Okay.
it significantly boosted their blood calcium levels.
Wait, didn't we talk about calcium being super important for strong bones and eggshells?
We did. So this could be another perk of adding BSF to the hen's diet.
Interesting. But to keep things balanced, you're probably going to tell me that some studies showed no effect on calcium.
Ah, you're catching on.
Hold on.
One study on ducks, it found no change in calcium or phosphorus levels from BSF.
Right, back to those species differences. What works for one bird might not work for another.
Exactly. Now, ready to talk about something that always gets people's attention. Cholesterol.
Ooh, yeah, everyone's looking for ways to lower their cholesterol these days. Is BSF the secret weapon?
Well, there's some pretty compelling evidence when it comes to chickens and ducks. Multiple studies showed a significant drop in blood cholesterol levels when BSS was part of the diet.
Wow, really? That's impressive. How does that even work? Does BSF have some magical cholesterol-busting power?
It's not magic, but it is cool science. Remember chitin, the superhero component of insect exoskeletons.
Of course. Nutrient-packed, immunity-boosting, what can it do?
Well, it turns out chitin can also bind to bile acids in the gut.
Bile acids. Vaguely remember those from biology class.
Right, they help digest fat.
Yeah.
So when chitin binds to them, it messes with their normal cycle in the body. Basically leads to more cholesterol being excreted, which lowers the levels in the blood.
Ah, so it's not that BSF is directly attacking the cholesterol. It's more like it's setting off this chain reaction in the gut.
Exactly. A fascinating example of how a seemingly simple dietary change can have these ripple effects throughout the body.
Okay, I'm adding cholesterol lowering to the ever-growing list of potential BSF benefits. What other blood stuff did they look at?
A few things. Some studies showed that BSF can actually improve liver function,
Oh.
leads to higher levels of protein, and something called albumin in the blood.
Albumin. Right, remind me what that does again.
It's a protein that helps maintain the right balance of fluids in the body,
Okay.
and is also a sign of a healthy liver.
So BSF, it's good for guts, cholesterol, and livers. This is getting hard to keep track of.
Don't worry, we're here to break it all down. But remember, even with all these exciting findings, we're still in the early stages of research. Lots more to learn.
Right, more research is always needed. What did the paper specifically say we need to learn more about?
Well, they highlighted a few key areas. One is that whole gut microbiome thing.
The shag carpet situation.
Exactly. We've talked about it a lot, but there's still so much we don't know about how BSF changes that bacterial balance
Right.
and what it means for the chicken's long-term health.
Yeah, it's like a whole world inside their guts, and we're just starting to understand it.
Another big one is the long-term effects of BSF diets in general. Most of these studies have only looked at shorter periods, so we need more data on how BSF affects the birds over their entire lifespan.
Makes sense. Something that seems great in the short term might have unintended consequences down the line.
That's why the researchers are calling for more research, not just to confirm what we already know, but to dig deeper into how BSF works
Okay.
and what the optimal levels are for different types of poultry.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities, but yeah, we got to stay grounded in the science. BSF might not be a miracle cure,
Right.
but it's definitely got potential.
Well said. It's about careful research, not hype. Now, are you ready for one of the most intriguing aspects of BSF?
Oh, I'm all ears. What haven't we covered yet?
We've touched on it, but it deserves its own spotlight. BSF's ability to boost the immune system and fight bad bacteria.
Wait, are you saying these bugs could help us reduce the need for antibiotics in chicken farming? Because that would be huge.
That's exactly what the research suggests.
Okay, now I am getting a little hyped. Tell me everything.
We'll do just that when we come back for the final part of our deep dive.
All right, back for the final stretch of our black soldier fly adventure, and I'm ready to hear more about this bugs' medicine thing. You left me hanging last time.
Yeah, I did deny.
Don't worry, I forgive you. But you gotta spill the beans now. How are these bugs boosting the chicken's immune systems?
Well, we've talked about how BSF can boost the good bacteria in the gut, right? But it's actually way more than that.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So the research really highlights how BSF meal can strengthen both the local immunity, like right there in the gut, and the systemic immunity, which is like the whole body defense system. It's kind of like BSF is giving the chickens this overall immune upgrade.
So it's not just about adding nutrients, it's about making their whole defense system stronger.
You got it. Like one study found that when laying hens ate BSF meal instead of soybean meal, their levels of serum globulin went up.
Serum globulin. Refresh my memory. What is that again?
It's basically the powerhouse of the immune system. Think antibodies, those little soldiers that fight off invaders like viruses and bacteria.
Oh, right, right. So more globulin means more antibodies, means stronger immune response. Okay, got it. But what is it about BSF that triggers this whole boost?
You guessed it. Chitin. It's back again. Not only is it a great source of nutrients, but it also seems to stimulate the production of these signaling molecules that actually orchestrate the whole immune response.
Okay, so it's not just about directly fighting off bad stuff. It's about making the entire immune system smarter and faster at responding to threats.
Exactly. Like BSF is giving the immune system a pep talk and some extra training all at the same time.
I love that analogy. So what other evidence did the researchers find to support this idea of BSF as this immune booster?
Well, one study showed that higher levels of BSF led to a significant increase in several immune markers in the chickens. Things like IgA and interleukin-2, which are basically different types of immune signals.
So it's boosting both the innate and adaptive parts of the immune system. And forgive me, but can you remind me what those are again?
Sure. The innate immune system is like your body's first line of defense. It's a rapid response team, attacks anything foreign.
Right, right.
The adaptive immune system is more specialized. It learns to target specific threats over time.
So basically, BSF is training up both the rookies and the veterans of the immune system.
I like that. Perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And the research actually gets even more specific than that. They even looked at the types of immune cells that are affected by BSF.
Okay, this is where I might need you to hold my hand a little.
No problem.
Yeah.
So there's this one study, they focused on T cells, which are like the elite soldiers of the immune system, right? They directly attack and destroy infected cells. And what they found was that higher levels of BSF led to more CD8 plus T cells, which are particularly good at killing those infected cells.
So it's like BSF is bulking up the muscle of the immune system, giving the chickens a fighting chance against all these nasty viruses and infections.
Exactly. But of course, like we've seen with other things, there's a balance to be struck. The same study found that at really high levels, BSF actually reduced the proportion of CD4 plus T cells.
Which are?
Those are the ones that help coordinate the whole immune response. So too much BSF can actually throw things out of whack.
Right, even while boosting other parts of the system.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
It's like the immune system is this delicate ecosystem, and we need to be careful about how we're messing with it, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Now, ready to shift gears a little. Let's talk about the antimicrobial properties of BSF. Remember that?
Oh, absolutely. Bugs fighting bacteria. Still can't get over that.
It's pretty amazing. And the research shows that DSF products can actually kill a whole range of harmful bacteria.
All right, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Okay, so one study, they found that adding BSF meal to the chicken feed significantly reduced the amount of coliform bacteria in their droppings.
Coliform bacteria. Remind me what those are again?
They're bacteria that are often found in feces, and high levels can indicate unsanitary conditions.
So BSF is basically making the chicken coop a cleaner place.
Potentially, yeah. And that's not all. Another study showed that chickens who ate BSF pupa had lower levels of Campylobacter in their guts.
Campylobacter. Does that ring a bell?
It's one of the most common causes of food poisoning, so reducing its presence in chickens is a big deal.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I see why that's important. But how is BSF actually fighting off these bacterial bad guys?
Well, part of it is good old Caton. Remember how we talked about it disrupting bacterial membranes?
Yeah,
It's basically poking holes in their armor, making them weaker.
love that. So is there anything else helping out?
BSF also has another trick up its sleeve. Lauric acid. You might recognize that from coconut oil, which is known for its antimicrobial properties.
Oh, yeah, coconut oil, the cure-all. So lauric acid is like a natural disinfectant.
That's a good way to think about it. And in the gut, it can actually be transformed into something called monolaurin, which is even more effective at killing bacteria.
Wow, so BSF is packing some serious heat. But what does all this mean for, the big picture of chicken farming?
Well, if we can use BSF to naturally boost chicken immunity and fight off these infections, we might actually be able to reduce our reliance on antibiotics.
That would be amazing. We hear so much about the dangers of overusing antibiotics in livestock.
It's a huge problem.
Could BSF be part of the solution?
It's definitely a promising avenue, and it's not just good for the chickens, it's good for everyone. When we overuse antibiotics, it can lead to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which is a major threat to human health as well.
Wow. So BSF is not just about sustainable food, it's about protecting public health too.
Exactly. By exploring these natural alternatives, we can create a healthier and more sustainable future for everyone.
I've got to say, I'm pretty blown away by all of this. We started talking about bugs in chicken feed, and we've ended up talking about the future of food and medicine.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? Who knew that these tiny creatures could have such a huge impact?
It just goes to show that sometimes the most unexpected solutions are right under our noses, or, in this case, buzzing around our compost bins.
Huh. That's a great way to put it. We need to stay curious and open to new ideas because sometimes nature holds the answers to some of our biggest challenges.
Well, on that note, for anyone listening who's feeling inspired and wants to learn more, where should they go from here? What would you recommend?
I'd say just keep asking questions and digging deeper. There are tons of resources available online, everything from scientific papers to articles to videos, you name it.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Explore the world of insects and their potential. It's fascinating stuff.
Great advice. And who knows, maybe some of our listeners will even be inspired to become the next generation of insect scientists, helping to unlock even more of the secrets these amazing creatures hold.
Now, that would be amazing. The future of food and health might just depend on it.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into black soldier flies and the future of sustainable poultry. We hope you enjoyed the journey, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.